All right. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So last week was really the test of tests in terms of getting used to what, production is like and what it's like to sort of crew up and try to do things, even if it was only 2 teams. That was sort of on purpose to just get you guys used to, what it's like to try to get a project together, right? What are the main elements? What are the main things that you need? And I'm sure you found out some good things, some bad things, some hard things. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. I'll go over the Creating Reality Hackathon, which I also saw a lot of the same kind of dynamics happening there, and then talk about really next steps for this class is really coming up with creative concepts that we can pull together into teams that you guys can start to work on regularly. And that's really the idea, is that, we want to find a good idea that you think you can apply to immersive media, and then have the opportunity to come back, to that and go there. So we'll start by just taking a look at the video again from the end of last class, in case everybody didn't get a chance to see it. But this is the video that the one, and I don't know, Amber, you didn't get to finish the edit on the other one, did you?
I did it like this week, but I have trouble copying the clips to my computer.
Okay.
So like I edited an iMovie, but then when I went to export, when I went to take out the SD card, it says there's missing camera. So I'm just trying to figure out how to get the clips.
Okay.
It's confusing. I don't know.
Yeah, it may need to reference where the files are.
Yeah. It says missing camera, so I don't know if I copied it to my computer wrong or something.
You may have, yeah. Well, we can try to help you recover that, and I think the biggest piece was really understanding, producing under a time crunch, and also with tools that, we're not necessarily all familiar with, right? So this is that chance to sort of come back. But what I want to do is make sure you come back and figure out how to finish that, export it, make sure you get those pieces. So we'll get you some support to try to get that. But here's the piece that at least did get completed. Ish. And in the mixed media mode, you can see some movement here, but there's other editing we have to do to make that move. So you either have to do it all in 360 video, or take an effect to go through that in the video clip.
I'm going to be showing you guys around in the A&P building, also known as the Arts Media Performance.
I know.
Today we're going to be going through different programs. Mostly we're going to be focusing on the new VR program that just opened up this year. We're very excited. We're going to jump into it, and we're going to even interview some of the students here. I hope you guys enjoy the program, and let's go. So enjoy.
That was golden.
I'm guessing where everything was.
I started in 2017 in the graphic and web design course, and once I heard about the virtual reality program coming to Mission College, I just was amazed by it and wanted to be involved in something that not too many people know about. We started. Well, the Professor Stage told me about the program here at Mission College, and he said that that the virtual reality program isn't really it's barely starting, and I really wanted to be involved in something that's barely starting, and I was really excited to be involved in this program. So
Hi, my name is Vanessa Regino. I'm a student of animation and 3D design here at Mission College. I've been studying here since 2013, and I'm really excited for all the new opportunities and experience I'm going to learn here. And I learn new things every minute I spend in this program. Too, I love learning about new technologies, especially this VR. I feel like I'm going to have abilities to work with this and enhance all of the things I'm going to be able to work in.
Cool. So again, look, as under the time constraints, under the direction that you guys were given and the rest, to come out with a product is key. And one of the things that I think we mentioned in one of the first classes was this idea of iteration, right? So the goal is, you know, we want to iterate, right? So I'd say, you know, as one of the first projects we can come back to is, okay, coming back from spring break, how would we redo this? That's why I hope to by then have, you know, the other teams together, combine some concepts, and then look at that together and say, hey, you know, as a team, what was good, right? I think there was some good emotions, real people talking about, you know, things about the program. You know, we need to now fill in the gaps, right? What are we trying to learn about? How do we go? How do we fill in some of the things? Hopefully by then, the folks of you who can get to the field trip on Tuesday, you'll see some things directly from AT&T on production. I'll share some stuff from this creative reality hack. And really, I want you guys to just start thinking about the process. You know, it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's an opportunity for you to come in and iterate on it again and again. You can always make it better. The big thing we're looking at here is how do you go through that process? How do you learn the tweaks? How do you hopefully come away with some skills that you don't have? And more importantly, how do you present yourself? How do you present that? Because the other piece that I'm going to want you know to do as you come up with teams and the rest is come up with how do you pitch? And you'll see some of the things from the Creative Reality Hack to see the video that they did on some of their projects. And then we'll come back around to that and the rest. So any questions on what we did last week? I want to know from you guys. So on the side of challenges last week, anybody want to talk about what they experienced going through the process in terms of challenges?
Our group had some challenges with like differing ideas and like communication struggles at first.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to work through that and like kind of like listen to everyone's ideas and like take everything into consideration and figure out what the best step was to move forward and get this done.
Yeah.
So it set us back a little bit.
Yeah.
We lost some time, but.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the one thing that you guys all have to take away here. When you go into the work environment, it is about getting a job done and communicating. Some of the biggest issues you're going to face will be about communication. People who believe, you know, you got to be able to listen, right? Listen to your teammates, listen thoughtfully to other ideas, find out ways, but also stay on task, right? So there's a challenge in listening to everybody's ideas, but also getting something done in the time that's allotted, right? So you have to give yourself that period. Say, hey guys, for 15 minutes, we can all talk. Everybody gets 2 minutes to talk about what they think we should do, how we think we should do it, and the rest, right? Make sure everybody gets heard, jot it down, be thoughtful, be considerate. Is this what I heard? Okay, great. Now, hey, let's come together. What do we think we want to do? Okay, great. This was good. This was good. This is good. And now, everybody okay? You know, all the ideas can never get done, right? You can only decide on what's doable in a certain amount of time that everybody's reasonably okay with. And sometimes it's 80-20 rule, right? 80% in this case to get it done is better than arguing about the last 20%. So the sooner that because the sooner the first team, the one thing they had on you guys, first team was ready to shoot in like 15, 20 minutes. So literally went down, let's figure it out. We want to get in the studio. That was key because in a content production challenge, content, gotta have content. Don't have any content, not gonna have it in promo. So those are some of the things you can start to think about that says, hey, you know, the sooner you get something shot, because you can always tweak, right? You can edit. Just like any of the stuff that ended up in this final, that wasn't perfect edit, but you can edit down. You can see the nuggets in that promo that got the right pieces across, right? So you can always go back, let's sweeten it, let's edit it, let's add some more audio, let's add some titles, let's fill in the blanks. But if you don't get a shot, you don't get over the line.
This was like a real-time exercise, and people needed to say exactly what they could do or couldn't do instead of saying, oh, I can do everything, like, you know, or something, and they don't. So, right. I mean, it was absolute, you had to say what you could do or not do. And in our thing, people just seemed to fill in stuff and it worked.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, and it's super important to know the skill sets, know the skill sets of your team. Try to set it up in such a way that every team at least had somebody on the team that had certain skill sets. But I think that got lost in translation as people got to get into the project. People forgot, dude, if you're the editor, you sit down at the machine, we're going to get you content because you're the editor. You're the guy who knows Premiere, right? We're not going to waste time. You know Premiere. You sit here and do this. I know you got creative ideas, but we got to get it. You know, we got to get it edited. You're my camera person. You know how to shoot. What are we shooting? How are we doing it? And then everybody else, hey, okay, talent. Everybody can fill in the blank of standing in front of the camera. If you're not shy, stand in front of the camera. And if you're not that person, then how do you help people understand the concept? How do you help the project stay on time? How can you add other pieces? And it's okay sometimes to just say, you know what? I'm going along for the ride on this one, right? I got some ideas. It's cool. Let me know if you need some help. Let me know if you need to do anything. But for now, because those are big teams, right? Some people, it's okay to just go along for the ride and say, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm going to support. Let me know if you need any other elements. Hey, you know, I think that was a really good line that came up there. Maybe this edit would be like this, right? The story, fill in the gaps, but you have to find a way to contribute and use your skills and know what you need to get it over the line. So again, the goal was to see how that might happen organically. So you can then step back to say, when I have time to plan it, you know some of those pieces. So it was on purpose for that to be hard. It was on purpose for me not to step in and try to solve the problems going on with team dynamics and all the rest. You guys have to see that, because sometimes that's the real world. You get dropped into a shoot, you get hired, you go show up at a production, you need to figure out how to fit in. And they're not going to wait to tell you what's up. Either you get with the program, or you're out. You can't be a distraction. You can't be the other things. You can't necessarily have it your way when you step in on something that's already in motion. Or if you do, be sure you know what you know and say it in a thoughtful way, communicate it in a way that is open to folks. Hey guys, you know, I know Premiere. If that's cool, let me know what I can do for you. Hey, I know audio. If you guys need some audio stuff, I gotta stick with some audio cues if you need it. But finding ways to be open in that communication is really key. So, other sort of thoughts from the process for us?
I think to me the most challenging part was like trying to improvise, you know, on the fly, just, you know, going in front of the camera and getting it done. But we just, with the time that we had, we tried to knock it out, and it was a little nerve wracking because you just, you know, your mind just gets clouded and you lose all your train of thought when you're in front of the camera. Sometimes, you know, you're good going, and then you'll just lose your, you know, like I said, you lose your train of thought, and it's just hard to get back on track when you lose that. But I just wish we could have edited it a little bit better, you know. But other than that, I think if we would have used some of the other footage and put some of that stuff together, I think maybe we might have had a better outcome in the end.
Yeah, and the good news is, you still have footage you didn't use. You still could have tightened up the edit. And those things can all happen in post, right? So the good news, this challenge wasn't about being perfect. This challenge was about who was brave enough to stand up in front of the camera and say, I'm going to be the face and put myself out there. That was the fact that you got up there, and I know you weren't uncomfortable, or you too. I mean, you know, you're self-conscious. Probably, great job.
I always like to get nervous.
Right. I mean, but that's okay, right? The fact that even if you get nervous, even if it's not your thing, you step outside of the box and do it. Amber stepped outside of the box in Premiere. She hasn't used Premiere. She's like, well, somebody needs to step in and figure out how to edit this stuff. I'm gonna sit here and on the fly, I'm gonna try to learn how to do Premiere. Not even finish the video production program. On the fly, you step out and say, hey, I'll tell my story in front of the camera. That's the point. The point is not perfection. The point is stepping outside your comfort zone, being willing to do it, and all the rest. And that leads into what I'll show you guys from the Creating Reality Hackathon. And I'll share some experiences that hopefully make you feel a little bit better about that. Other questions, thoughts? Okay, let me get to, so after that, what I did this week was I participated in the Creating Reality Hackathon, which is this link right here. How many of you guys took a look at the link? You see it? So this was a group of, I would say, let me see, 30 or 40 teams of 5 who got together, a lot like what we had in this class, who had to create ideas for VR, AR, mixed reality.
150 to 200 people were there?
150 to 200 people showed up from all over the country.
Wow.
at USC to sit in a room, and they were at the Ronald Tudor Center, the student center at USC, for 2.5 days to try to crank out a project. And they ran into everything that you guys talked about, but I mean, you're talking about some of the brightest minds. I got coders, I got Unity developers, we got storytellers, people who've won awards. You got all kinds of talent in the room, and they had to do the same thing. And they had the same struggles that you guys had, sometimes even worse. Because you're talking about technology and coders and guys who are like, well, I want my code to be like this, and I want the code to be like that. And what about this idea? And the same kind of things. And some of those guys blew up, right? So I went there Monday. And so Monday was the day they got to go sit into sessions and learn, sort of like the session that we did the first day you guys were here and some of the intro stuff, right? They got to hear about the subject matter, learn about it, ask questions. Then they sat in a room and they said, okay, guys, you're here. It's now time for you to do team formation. And what they did was, and we're going to go through this process, they had people who had ideas that they wanted to pitch. So you had a few people who had ideas, and they had to go around with a big piece of white paper and say, hey, here's my idea. And they had to crew up, right? Get talent who's interested in doing their idea. So first, you had to shop around to say, hey, I got this idea. Anybody want to join this idea? And we need these things. Here's what I need on the team. I'm the creative person with the idea, but I need a developer. I need an artist. I need audio. I need GPU. I need these things. And the job was to convince other people who had those skills to join their team. And so by the end, you had a limited number of developers. And so you had a lot of creative people, limited developers. Every team needed a developer because you can't do a product without the developer. In this world, it's more like you need the person who knows how to shoot, and you need the person who knows how to edit and do the video production. You can't get an end product in what we were doing without those two things. And then, hey, you can argue about what idea looks good and how you want to do that. So just know, and that I'm going to show you sort of what came out of some of it and share with you a few ideas. But that was really their challenge. They all showed up, again, on their own time. These are like graduate students, folks that, have come from the AR, VR space. Some of them know stuff, some of them don't. I was there as a mentor just to help people work through, navigate some of the pieces. And it was amazing to think about. You have really, really smart people, but they don't necessarily know how to gel around an idea, right? Each of you guys could have been a valuable part of that team just by being a creative person who understands storytelling. That was one of the things that everybody needed was, what's your story? In the end, they had to put together a video to pitch their product. And so I just want to say, you guys have that opportunity right now. There's not enough in that whole room. There weren't enough storytellers. There were good technical people. There weren't as many people who could wrap around that story, figure out how to make it impactful, figure out how to pitch it, figure out the value prop, and then how to produce that. So, you should see that your skill sets are very needed in this space. The tools, they're going to come and they're going to go. I can show you the Samsung VR gear. This is great. This is not the be-all, end-all headset. It just happens to be one that's on the market. It's good, not the be-all, end-all. Oculus, not the be-all, end-all, right? It's out there, but I saw 5 new headsets that are coming out. And Microsoft was there with their HoloLens, and there's all kind of stuff. It's not about the tech. It's about the process. And that's what, excites me about what all you guys have an opportunity to do, is be part of that process, understand how to do that, and work with any kind of tech in order to achieve an end or goal. So that said, so how many of you guys know what Slack is? Okay. So Slack is like Skype, but it's internal to a group, right? It's a hub. So this is the Slack channel for what was happening. And so this is how everybody communicated. We communicated here as mentors. The participants communicated to themselves. And in the end, they all had to post their videos to the Slack channel. So I'm going to show you a couple of the videos and have you guys sort of tell me, just talk about what you think of some of these different products and the rest. First, I'm going to start with this one. Notice everybody got their credits in.
There's plenty of room. Then you should say what you mean. to make personal remarks. It's very rude. I think you might do something better with the time than wasted in asking riddles that have no answer.
So in 2.5 days, they created the concept. So one, did you get the concept? So the concept was that you can step into a virtual reality world and you can play along with lines from your favorite movies. That they were doing Alice in Wonderland. So they had lines from that, and so the Mad Hatter would say a line, and then the rabbit would say a line, and in virtual reality, you're playing the role of the rabbit. That was really their idea, and they had 2 days to mock that up, right? Create those 3D characters. Notice the rabbit didn't have a face, right? Because that's what you had to have code done, right? but they got the point across of, okay, this might be a useful thing when it comes to how you might use VR, and their theme was in, I believe, content production, if I'm not mistaken. Let me tell you. Here's another one.
I remember that day. It was idyllic, picturesque. I was finally in a place in my life where I felt
This is from the
I
hackathon.
didn't have a care in the world. It was such a beautiful day. Nothing could bring me down. Then I woke up amazed.
So you see you have the VR backpack.
Yeah. Now I'm sure I will get out of this maze, even if it's the last thing I do.
So you notice they're using music, they're telling the story. Right. There's their credits, right? They produced their piece. They got their credits. And that's but that was their pitch. So the goal was to create a fully immersive maze that you had to sort of get out of as a game in VR from the content perspective. Here's a little more of a practical AR approach for a product called PaintMate. And they use Microsoft HoloLens, which is AR. Yeah, hard. See, that's where production people come in. So that was their concept called PaintMate. And again, they're trying to use AR in a functional way for Microsoft, right? So you can see some of the guys went creative. This is one of the functional ones. This one is a medical application for VR. And hopefully you see that VR and immersive reality is going to be used in a variety of ways, right? This is not just develop the next video game.
Hi there, my name is Jomar, and I volunteer at a stroke rehabilitation center in the Toronto area. As a rehabilitation assistant, I help people whose lives have been devastated by a stroke. You all know what a stroke can do to a person, but what you may not know is that the first 6 months after a stroke occurs are the most crucial for rehab, because whatever functionality a person doesn't get back by then, they will most likely never have again. So in other words, the more therapy a person receives right after a stroke, the more of their life that they can reclaim. With this in mind, I'm always looking for ways to maximize a patient's therapy session. To help patients with this challenging situation, we've created a VR experience that brings users to the side of a pond and encourages them to feed the incoming ducks. An experience that not only encourages patients to do their therapeutic range of motion exercises, but it also helps bring a bit of joy by transporting them to an engaging environment, doing something that they may have enjoyed doing before the stroke. We've also implemented the semi-transparent boxes that you can see on the bottom to act as a guide for where the patient should drop the breath. Dropping it in the area with the most points encourages them to reach out more and maximize elbow range of motion. This project uses the HTC Vive and the Elite Motion camera.
Everybody's getting their credits, right? All right. And then this one is the touch the finger to the nose test, I think, for Parkinson's, another medical one.
My name is Martin Shapiro, and I am the student doctor that will help assist you throughout the course of this program. We will be able to use the data from our simulated assessment and rehabilitation to be able to better inform your treatment, whether it's pharmacological or some non-pharmacological.
Notice they dropped the video into a virtual environment.
We hope you will enjoy.
So they use stabilization to help in the VR environment to help them to better hone in, right? Because if you're shaking from Parkinson's or the rest, you can't do that. But even if you're shaking, they use the VR to stabilize it, to help you get easier at understanding how to get that motion. They've also put in the medication, other things that would keep that
Insight
particular
shows
patient
progress by computing tremor movement. At the same time, our platform integrates with the physician to provide treatment recs based on VR data. Through this data, Insight's statistical engine will get smarter over time. Aside from aiding clinical care of Parkinson's disease, our immersive tremor-free environment is now publicly available through open source, so those with tremor can experience VR experiences like everyone else.
Now, if you think about that, I mean, that serves a certain market of people who can't really do VR because of that, right? So all of a sudden, that group of people, one, they can get their medical records, learn that, but it also feeds information to another group of people who might be disenfranchised through the VR experience. And then lastly, grab a pixel.
This is GraphiPixel's demonstration augmented reality experience. So first, you start off with this concept car. You can place it on the ground and then begin walking around it to explore. You're able to see that the interior of this concept car no longer looks like a traditional car, because in theory, you no longer need to drive and pay attention to the road because it's probably self-driving. The first thing you would probably do when you stepped into a car like this is you'd want to log in. You can have custom profiles and save your preferences. So you could have different preferences for the different environments: a social environment, an entertainment environment, a business environment, or different modes of transportation like a car or a train or a plane. And so to begin interacting with the environment, we put some examples on the middle console. So if you click on them, they load up various web apps. This one is a Facebook web app, for example, and then you could pick it up and move it wherever you want in the environment. And if you want to launch another one, this one is Snapchat. You can pick that up, place it wherever you want, and it'll stay in that spot until you want to pick it up and move it again. And you can continue customization to endless possibilities. And that's the demonstration app.
And then I think I have one more. Actually, let me see here. HLX. Yes. And all teams were required to produce this video in order to finish their project. So in addition to code, you had to have this pitch. That's the new AR headset by Miro. Yeah, it's crazy, right? So compared to the rest of them, you can tell that one was extremely tech heavy, but not so much story, right? So and they walk out of there like, okay, that was what? And then this one, I helped this team a little bit, a little more cool. So it's set up to help you to experience Tai Chi or understand how to teach Tai Chi. And then last one, I'll go show you one more real quick.
Hello, this is Jerome, and you are in my garage. I'm just back from the hackathon, and after 2 days spent like coding, I really need to speed my legs. So I decided to spend a lot of time on my trainer. But as you can see, it's pretty dull and boring to pedal in this garage. So I'm going to use a little trick and use this new AR app I just developed with my team, the Jam Running Buddies. And that's pretty simple. I just put Lunar Prism on my head and the remote in my pocket or even in my socks. It will capture my motion, to capture better. And I'm going to be able to ride in this virtual environment as a coach and progress in this experience.
So have you guys seen the Peloton commercials? So he's made the virtual reality version of Peloton, right?
Yeah, and I won. It's also great for treadmill, for running. We could imagine skateboard, electric skateboard. And our goal was to explore the limitation of VR headset that's only have video F, instead of 6 UF. It's pretty challenging to use.
So you guys get the gist of what he was able to pull together, right? So I want to ask you, so of all the stuff that you guys saw up there, which of those resonated that you thought had the best sort of overall use, creative, pitch?
I thought the one to help patients who have a stroke was really cool because I feel like that'd be very useful for people who have gone through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the one where they have the paint against the wall, I think that would be something that, because it's like, it's almost impossible to match up paint, or people always go through like impossible things when they get different type of Pantone colors to try to match them up to their walls and see what looks the best. And I think, being able to visualize it and see it, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, yeah. Any other people think, I just know what they, sure.
I like the, especially the last one. It was a great way to kind of get more immersed.
Mm-hmm.
You could really add that to
Yeah, well, very cool. So I will share with you guys who the winners ultimately were. And so the overall winners for AR, VR, general category prize winners, the Hoax app, and then the Stroke Rehab VR won in the medical area. In innovative and machine learning, it was the first one, FlickSync, mainly because it learns the lines and gives you a score, so you could actually practice lines from so you imagine if you import a script and you got to play, like the play they're doing downstairs, right? You have to figure out your lines, you can read your lines against the VR character, it'll learn and then score you on how well you do. So I think that's why they did well. Through Alice in Wonderland, yeah.
Well, maybe teach people language like that. If you put in a simple language, people try to
See, I think that's awesome. Absolutely, right?
And
you can see
the translation of what you're actually saying.
So they won for innovative entertainment and machine learning. Medical and healthcare was the Stroke VR. And then the Hoax app we saw there for architecture. And then content production was animators. The Vaunt Intel Award Microsoft gave PaintMate the award because Microsoft, certainly that was made for Microsoft HoloLens. Stroke Rehab did well for HTC there. So I think there were really some good ones. There's Follow Me, that was one that was here. I think I showed you guys that one, but since it won an award, I'll show you the video for that really quick. Let's find it here. There it is.
Hi, welcome to the USC Ballroom. I'm Boogaloo, your guide. I'm going to show you how to exit the building in the event of a fire. Along the way, you'll have some challenges to complete. Follow me and I'll guide you to safety. If you see a fire but no one has set off the fire alarm yet, you might have to pull the alarm yourself. Look for a red fire alarm on the wall along your path. Hey, there's one now. Please do not actually pull the alarm today. If this were a real fire, you would push in the alarm, then pull down. For now, just say alarm to set off a simulation of the alarm. Alarm. Great job. You've earned your first star. Let's keep moving. Before you go through a door in a fire, it's important to check if the door is hot. Heat can not only burn your hand, it means there may be a fire on the other side of the door. If the door is hot, you'll want to go another way. Now touch the door with the back of your hand to test your heat. If the door isn't hot, say safe. Safe. Phew, this door is safe. Now we can go through. Watch for illuminated exit signs along your path. When you see one, say exit. Exit. You found it. Now follow the stairs up. I'll meet you at the top. You made it! Congratulations! You've earned all 4 stars, and you know how to safely exit if there's ever a fire. Don't forget to remove your HoloLens and return it to the person who gave it to you.
Cool, right? And you can see sort of why some of these may have won and the rest, you know, basically, if you think about it, it was as much about the presentation and sharing the value of the idea as it is about the execution, right? Because some of the executions, even like in FlickSync, it's not fully complete in the execution, but you could start immediately, you know, you're saying, oh yeah, I see how you could use that. And, you know, you showed a pretty easy point of how things got done in PaintMate, right? Very functional. Pretty good presentation as well.
This was like a complete thought though.
Yeah.
You know, it had a beginning and ending too, and you were rewarded, and it was just, you know, a big picture was there.
Yes. So of all of those, I think that one probably told a story about why you might use it better than most, right? So at a minimum, what you guys have is the ability to help people tell stories, right? Beginning and end, and have that piece, right? And as I was saying at the beginning, that's a piece when you walk into a world full of coders, you walk into different kinds of tech, you know, the clear opportunity that I think is there for you guys is that storytelling piece, right? The idea that you understand the beginning, middle, end. How do you get to the point? How do you show the value? Because tech for tech's sake is not going to get employed. It's not going to make it, right? And VR is probably, in the last conversations I had while I was there, it's probably 4 or 5 years from, you know, break even, monetization, being where it's going to go. So this is clearly one of the places where you can be where the puck is going, right? Not where it is, where it's going. And this becomes the canvas as to how you get there. So questions about this? Great. So so the next step, you know, here is I want to have you guys think about, well, one, talk a little bit about the field trip. How many of you guys are going to be able to go to the field trip on Tuesday?
What time is it?
The VR is 6 to 9 in El Segundo, and there's 1 to 4 360 video, but everybody signed up for the 6 to 9 one, right?
Right, and they're asking people to get there at 5:30, sign in, and there's some other things for them to do the way that you go to understand what the takeaways would be. Show up at 6 o'clock, it'll be in full crowd.
Yeah. And again, I'll go over it really quick. It's humans and VR. And so as you guys have seen some experiences, you know, this is really going to talk about designing VR, you know, as a challenge. And one of the things that is there is, okay, let's back up. And this goes into storytelling. Because VR is an immersive environment, and basically, if you experience things in virtual reality, sort of tricks the brain into thinking that you have experienced these things. And that's good, right? You can see how it's put together for medical and all the rest, but you can also see if you're not careful about the stories and the exposure and how you use the technology, it could also be used in a very negative way, right? Because if you, okay, I'll give you a personal example. I have a 7-year-old at home, just turned 7. I'm showing him VR. My wife's like, you know, you should be careful if you're showing him that. And I'll show all you guys the app I showed him. And this app is called Fearless. It's by Samsung, and it's created to help people get over fear of heights. And so I'll put it on my phone, and hopefully you guys can walk around and take a look at it before you leave today. But it puts you in environments where you're on the edge of a cliff, or you're on a suspension bridge, or you're heli skiing, and you see that all around you, right? Well, I mean, I got a 7-year-old just turned 7 who thinks he can go to the top of a cliff and be on a suspension bridge. Yeah. And he believes he's done that, or will believe he's done that. And that's not always a great thing. That means we did a great job in telling the story. We recreated a great environment. We weren't socially responsible as to how we decided to use the technology. There's another app that does like roller coasters. And it's this roller coaster app, and it sort of gets you, but I had a friend who, she was at Universal. They went on the VR roller coaster, and she took her mom. Her mom got sick, right? It's like, get me out of here. I can't take that because it's jerky. It's a lot. You get VR sickness, right? Because you're like the world around you is moving, and you're physically moving, and nothing, and you're disoriented. So you have to think about those things. What's the responsibility for how you use this technology? And what are the stories we tell, and how are we responsible? And that's a lot of what they're talking about in the cases of where should it be applied. Just because you could make it VR, should you? You could replicate any kind of environment, right? So if you think about video games and the issues that you have with first-person shooters and all the rest, and you start creating fearless people in a VR environment who think they're bulletproof, that's not necessarily the responsible thing in real life, right? But you get used to doing things in that virtual environment, making that more and more real, you get desensitized. So just, all of those elements are part of what you got to take into consideration as you think about producing, storytelling, providing your skills in this environment. Any some thoughts, questions? Sure.
And kids are going more and more toward, not real stuff, video stuff. And so, and look at how influential, like, shooting and stuff in movies and stuff is affecting people too, It's
absolutely, right? It manifests in the real world, right? Yeah. So as creators, you have a responsibility for what you create. You can create positive experiences, you can create other experiences. But that is one of the things that you have to think about in new media, new technology. It's yet to be explored. And so having that sense of responsibility for the onus you have as a storyteller using a new environment is key. And so I think that's just part of what you should think about, and hopefully what you might take away from what you'll learn from this workshop. And so with that, I mean, really, so I want to go over a concept that I'd like us to think about for the rest of the sort of semester. We'll do the field trip. We won't do stuff on Friday. The field trip will be the equivalent of our class next week. we come back from spring break, and I want to go through the idea of the pitch process, a team formation, and then have you guys really start to work on honing these ideas, and then this becomes much more of a working environment when we come here. And so, information is cool. I like standing up there talking and all the rest. We're going to bring in some more guest speakers and that kind of thing.
Nice.
All right, good. So, any announcements?
No,
Good?
just
Okay.
checking in, saying hi.
Yeah, thank you.
On the field trip, we're supposed to get there on our own.
So yes, I believe we would try to buddy up to get there, if we can. But that would be the case if you can get to El Segundo. And so if anybody doesn't have a way or something, let me know. I'll try to post. If anybody has space and can take somebody, then let me know. But we'll show up there hopefully by 5:30 in El Segundo on Tuesday.
Yeah. So the traffic might be crazy.
Okay. Just let me know, and then we'll try to buddy folks up from there. So yeah, so I mean, I think the goal is to. So I want to take the concept of what we saw at the Creating Reality Hackathon and do that, but do that with you guys, but over weeks, right? So you have time to iterate. Do you understand what it's like to now do stuff under pressure? You understand what people are able to create under pressure in that environment. Now let's take some time, unpack that, fill in the blanks, and create stuff. That would be, my goal is I would like to be sitting here at the end of the semester showing your team videos for what you guys decided to produce out of this class. So, with that said, the goal would be to have, so you need ideas, right? We need some creators. We need people who have some creative ideas. So what you want to think about is after you come out of this workshop, after you see what we said, coming in on, I think it is like April 13th. We'd love to get together the folks who think they have a creative idea they want to pitch. And then let's see if we can get team formations around that and the rest. If we have more ideas, then people will hone it down to ideas and people. I think ideally you want, at least in this world, maybe 4 people on a team since we're small, right? And if it remained this small, we would end up with 3 teams, right? 4 or 5 on a team. That's cool, right? Because in the end, I want to really spend a lot of time filling in the gaps, right? We want to get you the resources. So our goal is to get professionals to fill in the gaps where you guys don't have it, right? So, I want to get you guys access to equipment, right? We need to get you guys cameras, stuff to be able to shoot for, right? We need to get somebody who can actually, if you said you want to do something in VR, we need to get a Unity developer who can get in and help you visualize things in Unity. I want to get some of these other headsets, right? So I want to get a Microsoft HoloLens as an example so you can see that. We want to get an HTC Vive. We'll get an Oculus. So that's my job between now and spring break, is to figure out how we get you guys equipment and rigs to be in here to start playing around and producing. What I want you guys to think about is what you've seen some ideas of some out there ideas and the rest. Given that, what would you create if you had this space? And so that's, and take some time to think about it. Think about what's useful. You saw, over a quick, pressurized environment, but what do you think about this? What kind of stories could you tell? I'll give you a couple of examples. A couple of storytellers I met there. The biggest thing in 360 video is location-based experiences. So just like the guy we heard from the first week here in North Carolina, they've got their kids going with these 3D cameras, I think next week, to the African American Museum in DC. They're gonna have some footage, so that's one project that we can sort of try to help on to help us figure out how we might do our own project. But what that's about is helping somebody immersively experience the African American Museum and the Smithsonian in DC if you don't go there. Right? That's just the simplest connection, just like we were trying to do of this building. Right. The purpose of the last thing was, how do you use 360 video to let somebody see what's in this building without actually being here? And I think that's functional. And by the way, that's your magic window stuff, right? That's the stuff that plays, right here. So here, let me. Oh, hold on. So this was 22 minutes ago in the class. And all teams were required to produce this video in order to finish the project. In addition to code, you had to have this thing. Right? So think about, I'm able to go here. I can find out, more, go into that place, see it. But that's bringing somebody right here into this classroom in real time to be in that environment. And they can move around. If they wanted to look at me while I was talking, they can look at me while I'm talking. They want to look at what's on the screen, they can look at what's on the screen. If they want to stare at you guys. But okay, you can see where that might have value different than the broadcast that's going out right now, which is only flat, right? It's showing what I'm showing. I'm doing a screen share. It's seeing what you guys see right there, but it's not in this room. So I think as you think about what could happen, 360 video is what I found so far is the simplest of all of these, but the value proposition is that location-based experience thus far. It's what people have seen. I think John here said he did it when he traveled in Japan. And as you think about that, though, the problem that I ran into that you saw in all the video clips. So, okay, let me ask you guys, what do you think was the biggest production challenge as a producer in 360 video? What do you think some of the challenges are? So I'll tell you. So what did I see? In every one of those video clips, I'm in it. You shoot 360 video, in order to control the 360 video camera, I have to control, even if I had it on the tripod over there, I was still the Easter egg, like, where's Waldo? Right? Where, and if you look closely at any 360 videos, where's the producer? Where's the guy who shot it? They're generally in it. So when talking to John, though, he talked about, well, let's put this on a monopod, and you had it in a backpack above you.
You have it on
It potentially may get just what's below you in the workflow for 360 video inside of Premiere. They have an ability to take a circle and fill it in at the bottom where the camera is. And so folks, as a regular base practice, thought about, okay, if you can only have the bottom, like where the tripod was, if you weren't in the shot, if it was above you in a monopod, then you could put a logo or whatever there, and now you only have the environment. Right? So these are the kinds of things that, again, I'm learning, asking the questions, right? How do you get rid of always being in the shot? Right? How do you figure out some of these audio cues in order to direct someone? Because you can understand also too much, you get lost, right? The projects that you looked at when we saw people presenting them, when you had somebody giving you narration of what was going on, it's much easier to follow. Like the follow me example is probably the best one, right? Not only did they have audio cues, you had video cues. Oh, say this word, you just got the payoff. Here's your star, you've completed the task. And again, I want you guys to see this in the Samsung environment for the Fearless one, because it goes through, you guys will do a little level and do that piece. But that's really my goal, for today. I just wanted to have you see what's there, think about some of the ideas creatively, and sort of be prepared then as we come back off of spring break. Are you going to pitch, or are you going to be somebody who's got skills that everybody needs? Because everybody needs somebody who can shoot. Everybody needs somebody who can edit. And edit shooting and audio is even better, right? But then the rest of it, you need storytellers, right? You need to be able to figure out what's your beginning, middle, and end of the project. How do you get from A to B? How do you best do that? And then all of you are going to have to figure out, how do you use the tools to do it? Right? We'll fill in some of those gaps, and I think that's our goal and challenge, is to bring that to the team, but to allow you to say, hey, here's what I want. If you can tell me here's what you want to do, then we can find some of the resources to fill in the gaps that know how to do what you need to do. Which means I got to go bribe some Unity developers or AR stuff. Any questions about what we're looking to do? Great. So if that's the case, take a couple minutes, take a quick break and a rest. I'm going to set up my phone in here, and then I'll let you guys come sort of one time, take a look at it, because I want you to see now what it looks like, at least in the Samsung VR experience, so that you can walk away with some understanding of that. And then the next step is to get more equipment in here, because I want to ultimately get a PC in here that can run the Vive, that can run the Oculus, and get you guys to see the difference. But the Samsung's not so bad. It uses the phone as the power driver, but different kinds of pieces there. Any questions before we take a quick break? Great. All right. Well, if we take 10 minutes, I'm going to set this up and. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, how you doing?